something about the way that headline landed didn't feel like ordinary showbiz chatter. For a few hours, it genuinely felt like this morning viewers were bracing themselves for a goodbye nobody had prepared for. It started quietly, the way most of these things do. A name here, a suggestion there, and suddenly a story that began as a whisper online had turned into something people were genuinely worried about. Deeley and Ben Shephard, the pair who have spent the last couple of years rebuilding trust with a daytime audience that had been through so much change, were suddenly at the center of talk that they might be on their way out. And the names being mentioned as their possible replacements, Tess Deeley and Vernon Kay, only made the story feel more real, because it wasn't some random pairing pulled out of thin air. It was two familiar faces who could believably slot into that sofa, which is exactly what made the rumors spread the way it did. If you've watched This Morning over the last 2 years, you'll understand why this hit differently. Kat and Ben didn't walk into an easy job. They stepped into a show still recovering from one of the most turbulent chapters in its history, and viewers watched them slowly, carefully, build something that actually felt steady again. There's a particular kind of chemistry that develops between two presenters over time, not the scripted, performative kind, but the small, human beats, a shared glance after an awkward guest moment, an unplanned laugh that runs a little too long, the way one instinctively picks up a sentence the other left hanging. Many viewers noticed that warmth growing between them, and that's exactly why the idea of losing it, even as a rumor, seemed to sting more than it probably should have. And that's the strange power of daytime television. It isn't loud or cinematic in the way primetime drama is, but it lives in people's homes every single morning, which means the presenters become something closer to familiar company than distant celebrities. So when a headline suggests that company might be replaced, it doesn't just read as a scheduling update. It reads, emotionally, like something personal is being taken away. That's why so many people online reacted instantly and defensively, some almost annoyed that the rumor had been allowed to spread that far in the first place. What made this particular moment even more interesting is how fast it escalated versus how calmly it was addressed. ITV didn't ignore it, and they didn't let it linger for days while speculation snowballed. A spokesperson came out fairly directly, essentially confirming that Kat, Ben, Alison Hammond and Dermot O'Leary were staying exactly where they were, with no plans for change. On paper, that's a simple, almost administrative statement. But watch how audiences actually responded to it, and you start to see something a little more emotionally complicated underneath. There was relief, definitely, but there was also this undertone of, why did we even have to ask? It's hard to say for certain, but that reaction alone tells you something about how attached viewers have quietly become to this current lineup, even if they hadn't fully admitted that to themselves before the rumor forced the question. It's worth sitting with why this particular pairing, Tess and Vernon, was the one that caught fire as a replacement theory. They're not strangers to this morning's world. Vernon has filled in on the sofa before, and Tess is one of those broadcasting names people trust instinctively, thanks to years fronting one of the nation's biggest entertainment shows. So this wasn't a wild, implausible theory built from nothing. It was constructed from just enough familiarity to feel believable, which is often how the most convincing rumors work. They don't need proof. They just need plausibility, and British television has a long history of shuffling its biggest names between shows, so viewers are almost trained to expect a shakeup eventually. There's also something worth noticing in the timing. This wasn't a slow entertainment week. This morning has been undergoing visible changes recently, new studio, new season energy, a noticeably different pace to the show. When a program is already shifting around you, even subtly, it creates fertile ground for people to assume bigger changes are coming. Viewers online began wondering whether the studio refresh was some kind of quiet signal, a first step before a full presenting change. Nothing ever confirmed that connection, and ITV's statement effectively closed that door, but it's a good example of how audiences piece together narrative from fragments, sometimes accurately, sometimes not. What lingers after a story like this isn't really the headline itself. It's the reminder of how emotionally invested people still are in who sits on that sofa every morning. This wasn't a 5-minute news cycle that came and went without impact. For a moment, real affection surfaced, affection people don't always express outright until they're faced with the possibility of losing it. Kat and Ben have earned something quieter than